The crystal vase shattered against the marble floor, and every servant in the hallway froze. Seo-Rin stood at the top of the grand staircase, her Cartier bracelet glinting as she pointed one perfectly manicured finger at the trembling housekeeper below. "You have 10 minutes to pack your things and disappear from my sight. If I see your face after that, you'll wish you'd never been born." The woman didn't argue. She didn't cry. She simply bowed and ran. This was the Kim mansion. And everyone who worked there knew one unshakable truth. The mafia boss might own the house, but Seo-Rin ruled it. Cross her once, and your life in Seoul was over. She had connections everywhere: judges, police chiefs, immigration officers. One phone call from her perfectly painted lips could erase a person's entire existence. The remaining staff scattered like roaches when lights flicked on, leaving only the head butler to sweep up the shattered glass. He'd learned long ago not to meet. Her eyes. Seo-Rin smoothed down her silk blouse and descended the stairs with the grace of a queen. She was beautiful in that sharp, dangerous way. High cheekbones, fox-like eyes, and a smile that never quite reached them. Men wanted her. Women envied her. And those who worked for her lived in constant terror. She'd earned her place beside Kim Jae-sung, one of Seoul's most powerful underground figures, through ruthless ambition and calculated charm. She wasn't born into this world. She'd clawed her way into it, leaving bodies in her wake. Metaphorically speaking, of course, though sometimes the staff wondered. "Miss Yoon." The head butler cleared his throat carefully. "The new maid arrives this afternoon." Seo-Rin paused, her Jimmy Choos clicking against marble. "New maid?" "Yes, miss. The agency sent her credentials last week. She comes highly recommended. I don't recall approving any new hires." Mr. Kim approved her personally. Her jaw tightened imperceptibly. Jae-sung rarely involved himself in household matters. That he'd hired someone without consulting her felt like a challenge. A test, perhaps. He'd been distant lately, watching her with those cold, calculating eyes that had first attracted her to him. "Fine," she said icily. "But if she's incompetent, she's gone. I don't care who hired her." The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the mansion's floor-to-ceiling windows when the new maid arrived. Seo-Rin watched from the second-floor balcony as a taxi pulled up to the service entrance. A young black woman stepped out, dressed simply in jeans and a modest blouse, carrying a single worn suitcase. She moved with quiet efficiency, thanking the driver in perfect Korean before turning toward the mansion. There was something in her posture, straight-backed, unhurried, that immediately irritated Seo-Rin. Most new staff arrived nervous, eyes darting around at the opulence. This woman looked like she was coming home. The head butler greeted her, and Seo-Rin strained to hear their conversation. "Welcome to the Kim residence. I'm Mr. Park. You must be Minji," the woman said softly. "Thank you for this opportunity." Minji. A Korean name, though her accent carried hints of something else. American, maybe, or British. Seo-Rin couldn't place it. "I'll show you to the staff quarters and go over your duties. Miss Yoon oversees all household operations, so you'll report primarily to her." Something flickered across Minji's face at the mention of Seo-Rin's name. Recognition? Fear? But it vanished so quickly that Seo-Rin wondered if she'd imagined it. The first official meeting came that evening. Seo-Rin had the staff line up in the main hall for inspection. A ritual she performed with every new hire. It established hierarchy, reminded everyone of their place. She walked down the line slowly, heels echoing, examining each person with the critical eye of someone inspecting livestock. When she reached Minji, she stopped. Up close, the woman was younger than Seo-Rin had initially thought. Mid-20s, perhaps. Smooth, dark skin. Natural hair pulled back in a simple bun, and eyes that held an unsettling steadiness. Most people couldn't maintain eye contact with Seo-Rin for more than a few seconds. Minji held her gaze without blinking. "So you're the one Jae-sung hired," Seo-Rin said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Tell me, Minji, what makes you think you're qualified to work in a house like this?" I don't presume to know, Miss Yoon, but I'm a fast learner, and I don't make the same mistake twice. The response was polite, respectful, but there was something underneath it, a confidence that set Seo-Rin's teeth on edge. We'll see, Seo-Rin said coldly. In this house, mistakes aren't tolerated. You'll start in the West Wing. Those floors haven't been properly cleaned in weeks. I expect them spotless by morning. It was an impossible task. The West Wing alone had 15 rooms, each with intricate parquet flooring that required special treatment. Even experienced staff needed 2 days. Minji simply nodded. Yes, Miss Yoon. No protest, no fear, just calm acceptance. Seo-Rin felt something twist in her stomach, something she didn't recognize at first because she so rarely experienced it. Unease. The days that followed established a disturbing pattern. Seo-Rin would assign Minji increasingly difficult, humiliating tasks, scrubbing toilets with a toothbrush, reorganizing the entire library by publication date, hand-washing Seo-Rin's most delicate lingerie. Minji completed every task without complaint. The other staff noticed. Whispers floated through the servant quarters. She's going to break her. No one lasts more than a week when Miss Yoon targets them. I give her 3 days. But 3 days became a week. A week became 2. And Minji remained quiet and efficient, moving through the mansion like a ghost. Seo-Rin found herself increasingly obsessed with breaking the woman's composure. She'd call Minji at 3 in the morning to remake a bed that was already perfect. She'd accidentally spill wine on freshly mopped floors. She'd criticize everything from the way Minji folded towels to how she arranged flowers. And every single time, Minji would simply bow her head and say, "I'll fix it right away, Miss Yoon." It was driving Seo-Rin insane. What made it worse was that Jae-sung seemed to notice. He'd started spending more time at home, his dark eyes following interactions between his fiancée and the new maid with disturbing interest. "You're being excessive," he told Seo-Rin one evening, his voice carrying that quiet authority that made grown men tremble. "She needs to understand her place." "She seems to understand it perfectly well. You're the one who can't seem to let it go." Seo-Rin's perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide the flush of anger on her cheeks. "Since when do you care about the staff? Since you started acting like a woman with something to prove." He swirled his whiskey, ice clinking against crystal. "What is it about her that bothers you so much?" "Nothing bothers me. I simply have standards." He didn't sound convinced. That night, Seo-Rin couldn't sleep. She lay in her silk sheets, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand why one insignificant maid had gotten so deeply under her skin. It wasn't just the woman's composure, though that was infuriating enough. It was something else, something familiar. The way Minji moved through rooms, always observing, always aware. The way she seemed to know the mansion's layout after only days, never getting lost, never asking for directions. The way she'd paused in front of the library's west window, touching the frame like she was greeting an old friend. And then there was the humming. Seo-Rin had caught her humming while dusting the second-floor hallway, a soft, melancholic tune that had made Seo-Rin's blood run cold. She knew that song. She hadn't heard it in years, but she knew it. The melody dragged her back to a different life, a life before Seoul, before Jae-sung, before power and fear and perfectly manicured nails. She'd been nobody then. A scholarship student at an elite British university, surrounded by people who made her feel like dirt on their expensive shoes. She'd been desperate to belong, to climb, to become someone who mattered. And she'd met her, Amara. The memory hit Seo-Rin like a physical blow. She sat up in bed, her heart racing. Amara Thompson, the brilliant, kind, impossibly naive scholarship student from Birmingham, who'd befriended her during their first year, who'd shared notes, bought coffee on days Seo-Rin couldn't afford it, listened to her dreams of making something of herself, who'd trusted her completely. Seo-Rin pressed her hands against her eyes, trying to push the memories away, but they kept coming, relentless as a flood. The crucial exam they'd both been studying for, the one that would determine their futures. Seo-Rin had needed to score higher than Amara to secure the internship that would change everything. So she'd done what she had to do. She'd stolen Amara's research, copied her exam answers. And when that hadn't been enough, when Amara had still somehow managed to impress their professors with her raw brilliance, Seo-Rin had gone further. She'd planted evidence in Amara's room, academic dishonesty, plagiarism of another student's work, Seo-Rin's work, ironically enough. She'd used her family's meager connections, called in every favor she could, painted herself as the victim and Amara as a jealous competitor who'd stolen her research. The university had believed her. How could they not? Seo-Rin was poised, well-spoken, perfectly composed in her testimonies. Amara had been devastated, barely able to defend herself through her tears and shock. The expulsion had been swift. The scandal had spread. Amara's scholarship was revoked. Her visa was canceled. Seo-Rin had watched from her dorm window as Amara left campus with everything she owned in 2 suitcases, her future destroyed. That had been 7 years ago. Seo-Rin had gone on to secure the internship, which led to connections, which led to Seoul, which led to Jae-sung and this life of power. She'd never thought about Amara again, or at least she'd trained herself not to. But now, lying in the darkness, she couldn't stop thinking about that song. The one Amara used to hum while they studied together. A melody from her childhood, she'd said. Something her grandmother taught her. The same melody Min-ji had been humming. Seo-Rin's hands were shaking. It couldn't be. It was impossible. Amara had disappeared after the expulsion. Last Seo-Rin had heard, she'd gone back to the UK, broken and humiliated. There was no way she'd ended up in Seoul, working as a maid in this mansion. It was just a coincidence, a common tune. Seo-Rin was being paranoid. But the next morning, when she found Min-ji dusting the library, the same library where Seo-Rin kept her collection of rare books, including several she'd acquired during her university days, her paranoia crystallized into certainty. Min-ji was holding one of those books. A first edition of Wuthering Heights that Amara had once mentioned was her favorite. "Put that down," Seo-Rin snapped. Min-ji turned slowly, and for the first time, Seo-Rin saw something other than calm neutrality in her expression. It was a smile, small, sad, knowing. "You love this book too," Min-ji said softly. "Remember? You said you admired how Catherine Earnshaw never apologized for wanting everything." The room tilted. "Who are you?" Seo-Rin whispered. Min-ji carefully placed the book back on the shelf. When she turned to face Seo-Rin fully, her eyes held none of the deference that had been there for weeks. "You really don't recognize me, do you? Even after all this time, all those humiliating tasks, all those moments where you looked right at me trying to find something to destroy." Seo-Rin's throat had gone completely dry. You can't be Amara Thompson." The name hung in the air like a guillotine blade. "Though I've had to become someone else since you destroyed the person I was." Min-ji seemed like a good choice for Seoul. Simple, forgettable. The kind of name you wouldn't think twice about. The floor seemed to drop away beneath Seo-Rin's feet. "That's impossible. You were deported. You disappeared?" Amara finished. "Yes. That's what you wanted, wasn't it? For me to vanish so completely that you'd never have to think about what you'd done." "I don't know what you're talking about." Seo-Rin's voice came out strangled, unconvincing even to her own ears. Amara laughed, and the sound was hollow. 7 years, Seo-Rin. 7 years since you framed me, stole my future, and walked away without looking back. Did you ever think about me? Even once? You're insane. I'm calling... Calling who? Security? Amara stepped closer, and Seo-Rin found herself backing up despite being in her own house. "Go ahead, but you should know that your fiancé already knows who I am." "Why do you think he hired me?" The words hit like a slap. "What?" "Jae-sung is a thorough man. He investigates everyone in his life. including you." Amara's voice was soft, almost gentle, which made it more terrifying. "He found some inconsistencies in your background, your university records, your scholarship, the sudden disappearance of a student named Amara Thompson around the same time you secured your life-changing internship." Seo-Rin's knees felt weak. He contacted me 6 months ago, offered me a job, wanted to see what I'd do with it." Amara's smile was sad. "He's been testing you, Seo-Rin, watching how you treat someone you think is beneath you, watching how far you'd go to maintain your power over someone you can't break." "No." Seo-Rin shook her head violently. "No, he loves me. We're getting married. He loves the idea of you, the perfect, poised woman who clawed her way to the top." Amara's eyes were impossibly sad. "But he's a gangster, Seo-Rin. He values loyalty above everything, and he can't trust someone who destroys innocent people to get ahead." The library door opened, and Jae-sung walked in. His presence filled the room immediately, that quiet, dangerous authority that had first attracted Seo-Rin. "I see you finally recognized each other," he said calmly. Seo-Rin whirled to face him. "Jae-sung, whatever she told you, it's lies. She's a con artist who—" "I have the evidence," Amara interrupted quietly. She pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. "I spent 7 years rebuilding my life, working 3 jobs while finishing my degree online, learning Korean because I refused to let you take education from me, and investigating exactly what you did." She handed the phone to Jae-sung. Seo-Rin watched, horror blooming in her chest, as his eyes scanned the screen. "Emails between you and the university administration," Amara narrated. "Screenshots of your family's wire transfers to key faculty members. Testimonies from 3 students who saw you plant evidence in my dorm room but were too afraid to speak up at the time. They're not afraid anymore." "Those could be faked," Seo-Rin said desperately. "The bank transfers are real," Jae-sung said coldly. "I verified them myself. I was young. I was desperate. You don't understand what it was like." "I understand." "Perfectly." His voice cut through her excuses like a blade. "You were willing to destroy an innocent person to get what you wanted, which means you'd do the same to me if I ever became inconvenient. No, I love you. Everything I did was to become worthy of someone like you. You became exactly what I despise." He set the phone down on the table with deliberate care. "Someone who mistakes cruelty for strength." Seo-Rin felt her carefully constructed world crumbling. "Please, we can fix this. I'll make it right. How?" Jae-sung's eyes were ice. "By apologizing to the woman whose life you ruined? By undoing 7 years of her suffering? By somehow proving you're not exactly who you've shown yourself to be for the past 3 weeks? Seo-Rin turned to Amara, desperation making her reckless. "What do you want? Money? I'll give you money. I'll help you get a better job. I'll write recommendations." "I don't want anything from you," Amara said quietly. "I never did. I just wanted you to see me, to remember what you did, to understand that the people you destroy don't just disappear. They rebuild. They survive. And sometimes they come back." "Then why?" Seo-Rin's voice cracked. "Why go through all this? Why not just expose me immediately? Because I needed to see if you'd changed, if there was any remorse in you, any humanity." Amara's voice was infinitely sad. "But you spent 3 weeks trying to break me all over again. You couldn't help yourself." Jae-sung walked to his desk and pulled out a folder. "The engagement is over. You have until tomorrow evening to pack your things and leave." "You can't do this!" Seo-Rin's composure finally shattered completely. "I have connections. You have nothing," he said flatly. "Every connection you have in Seoul came through me. I've already made calls. Your social circle knows what you did. The charity boards you sit on have asked for your resignation. Your memberships to the clubs have been revoked." The room spun. "One mistake. 7 years ago. You're going to destroy me for one mistake?" I'm not destroying you, Jae-sung corrected. I'm simply withdrawing my protection. You'll have enough money to leave Seoul comfortably. Start over somewhere else, which is more than you gave Amara. Seo-Rin looked between them, her mind racing for any leverage, any play, anything to salvage the situation. But Jae-sung's expression was immovable, and Amara just looked tired. Please, Seo-Rin whispered, hating how small her voice sounded. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know, Amara said softly. You're sorry you got caught. The words hung in the air, and Seo-Rin had no response, because they were true. Jae-sung gestured toward the door. Mr. Park will help you pack. As if summoned, the head butler appeared. He wouldn't meet Seo-Rin's eyes as he waited. Seo-Rin took one last look around the library, at the life she'd built, the power she'd wielded, the future that was dissolving like smoke. This isn't over, she said, trying to inject steel into her voice, but it sounded hollow even to her. The next 24 hours were a special kind of hell. Word had spread through the mansion with the speed of wildfire. The servants who'd once cowered before Seo-Rin now barely acknowledged her existence. When she snapped orders, they simply looked through her like she was glass. The head housekeeper she'd fired 3 weeks ago was quietly reinstated. The gardener, whose work she'd constantly criticized, hummed cheerfully under her window. No one was cruel. No one gloated. They simply moved on, as if she'd never mattered at all. Seo-Rin packed her designer clothes, her jewelry, her carefully curated possessions, and with each item that went into her suitcases, she felt herself becoming smaller. She'd always believed that power was everything, that if you climbed high enough, became important enough, you'd be untouchable. But now, stripped of Jae-sung's protection, she was learning a brutal truth. Power borrowed is power that can be taken away. On her final evening, she encountered Amara one last time in the hallway. The other woman was in her maid's uniform carrying fresh linens. They stood there for a long moment, and Seo-Rin searched for something to say, some final justification or defense or attack. But all that came out was, did it feel good? Getting your revenge? Amara considered the question seriously. It's not revenge. Revenge would have been destroying you the way you destroyed me, publicly, humiliatingly, making sure you could never recover. Then what was it? Justice, Amara said simply. I wanted the truth to matter. I wanted you to face what you'd done. And I wanted to prove to myself that I survived your worst and came out stronger. And did you? Seo-Rin couldn't keep the bitterness from her voice. Feel stronger? Amara looked at her with something that might have been pity. I feel free. For 7 years, I carried what you did to me like a stone. Every job interview where I had to explain the gap in my education, every time someone asked why I didn't finish at university, every moment where I wondered if I was actually the person you'd painted me as. She shifted the linens to her other arm. But standing here now, watching you face consequences for the first time in your life, I finally understand. You didn't destroy me. You revealed yourself. The words shouldn't have hurt as much as they did. I hope you find peace, Amara said, and she sounded like she meant it. Real peace. The kind that doesn't come from power or status or standing on other people's backs. She walked away, leaving Seo-Rin alone in the hallway of a house that was no longer hers. The taxi arrived at dawn. Seo-Rin loaded her bags herself. No servants appeared to help. She took one last look at the Kim mansion, at the life she'd fought so hard to claim. Jae-sung didn't come to say goodbye. As the taxi pulled away, Seo-Rin caught a glimpse of Amara standing at one of the second-floor windows, not watching her leave, just standing there, looking out at the Seoul sunrise. Free. 6 months later, across the city, Amara sat in a small but comfortable apartment that Jae-sung had helped her secure. She'd resigned from the mansion after Seo-Rin left. Staying had never been the point. Now she worked as a translator, her language skills and rebuilt credentials finally recognized. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. It was hers. She still thought about Seo-Rin sometimes, wondered where she'd gone, if she'd learned anything. But mostly, she thought about the girl she'd been before the betrayal, the one who'd believed in the goodness of people, who'd trusted easily. That girl was gone, and Amara had made peace with that. But in her place was someone stronger, someone who knew that survival wasn't about revenge. It was about refusing to let cruelty define you. Her phone buzzed. A message from one of her new colleagues asking if she wanted to grab dinner. Amara smiled and typed back a yes. The past had tried to bury her. Instead, she'd grown roots. And sometimes, that's what justice looks like. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but the quiet, persistent kind. The kind that rebuilds what was broken. The kind that proves that cruelty might win battles, but resilience wins wars. The kind that remembers and returns, not for revenge, but to reclaim what was stolen: dignity, truth, and the simple, powerful right to exist without fear. In the end, that was the greatest victory of all. So what do you think? Did Amara go too far, or was this exactly what justice looks like? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I genuinely want to know where you stand on this one. And if this story kept you hooked, hit that subscribe button, because I've got more stories that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about revenge, power, and the quiet strength it takes to rebuild after betrayal. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.